Albert paced across the polished marble floor. He was but a scientist. How could his government expect him to work so quickly, especially on a project so immoral? The large oak door he was pacing near swung open violently. The soldier who opened it looked towards Albert and said, "They're ready for you." Albert timidly walked into the room. A large, ringed platform surrounded him on all sides. A woman hidden by darkness in the middle of the platform spoke first. "What is taking you so long?" Albert thought for a moment. "What exactly are you asking me?" His voice betrayed his mind and broke into a timid and nervous squeak. Albert looked down in embarrassment and fear before the woman gave her reply. "Albert, if you don't want to do it, you need to let us know." "Why?" he snapped. "So you can just get someone else to do it? This technology was never meant to do this. I can only imagine Essler Friedman is rolling in his grave right now. You are bastardizing his FTL." The woman sat back in her chair for a moment before bringing herself into the light. Jill Tyron sat in the chair. Her eyes were sunken and tired. In her exhaustion, the veil of strength exuding from her was no more. Waves of desperation radiated off her tired soul. Her mind raced for a suitable response but found nothing other than, "It must be done. You know that. We know you're the best. You'll get it done the fastest." What if a terrorist ever gets hold of it? Or an alien? Or anyone? This could destroy everything. Be worse than the monsters we fight now. "I know, but we have alarming news. This is the only way. Admiral Westman, show him." The clang of the Admiral's metals gave away his position to Albert. He sat directly to Jill's left. He moved around the darkness before switching on a projector and standing up. The projector cast out a pale white glow, illuminating the members of government and high command sitting before Albert. Admiral Oda sat to the left of Admiral Westman, and Admiral Krieger at the left of Oda. At Krieger's left sat General Bob Williams. He and Krieger were deep in some conversation before noticing they could be seen, and then stopped. To the right of Jill sat Vice President Barry. To his right sat some others that Albert didn't know the names of. Albert then turned his attention to the wall next to him that was now projecting the images of a massive alien fleet. "Where is this?" Albert whispered. "How much time do we have?" "It's in the outer colonies. There are 15 fleets of exactly the same composition. They are encircling every single system we have, coming from every angle." "How many systems have they taken?" 200 of our outermost outposts. Well over 1 billion were living there. We can only assume they are dead." Albert's legs gave out from under him, and he collapsed to the ground. Admiral Westman ran over to help him back up. "Albert," Westman said, "there's going to be no one left soon. Our fleets are engaging them, and we get victories, but we can't hold much longer. Every day more fleets come. It could go from 15 fleets to 1,000 within a month. Multiple scout ships have been spotted near Neptune, and deep space telemetry is going haywire in the Alpha Centauri system." Albert looked up at the Admiral. "Why?" The Admiral stared back, then turned away and said nothing. The silence was broken by the raspy voice of Vice President Barry. "There are no communications between humanity and the aliens. The only information we get is from stealth ships hiding in their borders." Admiral Oda spoke next. "The situation is desperate. We've begun prioritizing the production of arc ships over military vehicles. We need a weapon that can turn the tide, and we need it fast." Albert once again stared at the ground. After considerable time, he pushed himself off the ground and stood to face the others in the room. "I will begin work immediately. Send me multiple FTL drives of different standards, civilian, old and new, as well as any military variants. I'll have them weaponized by the end of the week." "The sooner the better," muttered Krieger. "Good luck and Godspeed." Rant Yaul's Memoirs, Log 1. I have been the lead science advisor to the counselor for millennia, yet in these past months, Kutan has become unhinged. The demeanor and personality of a caring and intelligent caretaker completely vanished into bloodlust and madness with the message from the humans. For the past month, I've dared to ask the question of why such a sudden change befell her. Albert. "Begin calibration sequence now!" Albert looked out the gargantuan observation window of the RMS Golden Age, an interstellar cruise liner turned mobile RKM platform. The alien planet lovingly designated Alderaan II was locked in the sights of Albert's most horrifying creation. The wonder weapon codename Pandora was being charged up for test firing. "Target locked, sir. Permission to fire?" Recently pardoned Admiral Krieger gave the order with a simple nod. In a millisecond, humanity's first RKM seemingly popped out of existence, propelled into FTL by the majestic power of the altered Friedman drive. In roughly 1 minute, it would reach its destination, and all hell would spill loose. If it worked. Krieger turned to Albert and asked, "How does it work exactly?" Albert thought for a minute, then replied, "A normal FTL drive could reach its destination instantly, but must first slow down to less than relativistic speeds. The vast majority of travel time is spent decelerating to prevent any causality breakage, as well as prevent time dilation for the biological crew. This FTL drive only decelerates to an incredibly small amount, less than the speed of light. 99. Insert the desired number of nines here. It hits as hard as we want it to, essentially infinitely powerful." Krieger kept staring out the observation window and said nothing. He understood none of what Albert just said other than infinite power. Krieger hoped that was a good thing. On the surface of harmonic wind, the planet humans dubbed Alderaan, families played in a park nearby the local police station. Commuters traveled to and from their work, worrying only about what they would do with the rest of their day. People walked the streets, stopping to buy some new soil bedding or furnishings for their homes. Conversations about the humans were commonplace, but everyone felt relatively isolated from the war. They were across the galaxy, after all. Soon after Albert stopped talking, the fireworks began. Alderaan II was hit with 10 circumflex 32 joules of energy, enough to not only shatter the planet but completely evaporate it. The planet shattered like a balloon being popped with a naval railgun. The amount of overkill was so disgustingly absolute that not even a single microbe could survive. There were no words to describe the horror that was unleashed, and this was only an infinitely small fraction of the weapon's potential power. The sight was too horrible to bear, and the implications were even worse. The galaxy had entered a new age of untold destruction. Not even Krieger cheered for their success. 1 second ago, an alien planet filled with life and adventure existed, and now it was reduced to glorified space dust. 50 billion aliens died in an instant, not having enough time for their neurons to even get a signal from the blinding flash of energy they were subjected to. The deck remained silent in abject horror and shame for many minutes. After some time, Albert mustered up the courage to mutter a single sentence. "It's done." Rant Yaul's Memoirs, Log 2. I took samples of the blood work and genetic makeup of the High Counselor at regular intervals for well over 1,000 years. Now, instead of sending these samples to the genetic labs, I study them directly. When comparing her DNA to that of other individuals of standardized species, I noticed one stark difference. A string of 20 genes is present in Q-Ton that are not present in any other standard species of the galactic databanks. High Counselor Q-Ton. High Counselor Q-Ton relaxed in her office and enjoyed her perfectly synthesized flavored water. She thought about giving the synthesizer a raise, but her mind quickly turned back to the humans. Q-Ton wanted to watch them burn like the vermin they truly were, simple animals meant to be destroyed. Why the council before her thought humans were worth protecting was beyond her understanding. "Counselor, you are needed in the war room." The plant rose from her Neurotech R soil bed and requested to be beamed to the war room. Her molecules were transferred to the room's teleporter, and her consciousness was put back into her body. The sights awaiting her newly rematerialized eyes were puzzling. She was staring at a blank screen captioned, "Harmonic Wind. Population, 50 billion. Get me up to date." Fleet Commander Yout replied, "Our satellites over Harmonic Wind are showing something troubling. There was a bright flash of white, and now the area that the planet once occupied is empty. How is that possible? We have no idea." Q-Tan pondered for a moment, still adjusting to her revitalized brain. She, unlike the others, didn't notice much change from the re-evolution procedures. Her mind just seemed slightly more clear in her hatred of the humans. For everyone else, the person they used to be seemingly disappeared, replaced with a comparatively heartless and cruel individual. The suicide rates plaguing the civilian population had plummeted to pre-war levels. Seemingly, they were now accepting this genocide of inferior animals. If what the screen reported was true, however, Q-Tan's worst fears may have just been realized. Is it possible the humans have weaponized their FTL? The room went silent for a while, pierced only by the nervous whisperings of the War Council. A young and low-ranking aide to one of the admirals broke the silence. "That is our only explanation. Get me a line with the Fleet Lord. We must destroy them before any more worlds are lost." Rant Yaul's Memoirs, Log 3. These genes appear to be responsible for the majority of what humans call the flight or fight response. I hypothesize that these genes regulate neural stimulation of aggression or fear. Upon seeing a human, an apex predator, Q-Tan immediately went into fight mode. Her aggression and lack of reason in our so-called diplomacy with the humans support this theory. My ideas were confirmed when I subjected Q-Tan to a mental scan under the false premise of a new standardized procedure. Fleet Lord Wenton. Wenton and his advisors sat around a large circular conference table. In the middle, a hologram of Q-Tan was barking orders at the group of high-ranking officers. After her tirade was complete, the hologram dissipated, and the real work began. The fleet was adjusting to the new ships they had been assigned to. Lord Wenton had been assigned the entire fleet of Retribution and personally oversaw its operation. 100,000 ships waited in interstellar space outside of TRAPPIST, Sol, and Proxima Centauri. The consensus from High Command was that human resistance would crack as soon as the core was destroyed. Humanity would lose its ship production capabilities, and life could go back to normal. Weston turned to face the crew on the bridge of his flagship, Unyielding Might. The ship was a gargantuan 12 kilometers long and 3 kilometers wide. The grand structure was dotted with thousands of antimatter barrage systems, long-range artillery, and hundreds of rocket pods. The main weapons paled in comparison to the complement of 2,300 strike fighters and bombers capable of ripping the best-defended ships into scrap. He knew, however, that even though all this power only barely matched the unhinged prowess of human ship technology, many of the people around him would undoubtedly die in the battle to come, maybe even himself. Yet the decision had already been made, and Weston was not a traitor. Today we will avenge the countless billions that humans have carelessly eradicated. Many of us will fall in glorious combat, but the humans will face fury they never could have imagined. They will lose everything they've ever known, and the survivors will watch their once great empire crumble into a historical footnote. Today, humanity burns. The bridge crew cheered and entered a truly primal state of bloodlust. The entire fleet, watching the Lord's speech over hologram, cheered alongside them. "All ships, jump to your assigned assault zones. Let not a single death go unanswered." Rant Yaul's Memoirs, Log 4. Multiple regions of her brain were hyperactive in comparison to 100 other standard species brain models. The equivalent region in a human is the frontal lobe, responsible for reason and emotion. Her mind is stuck in some sort of overdrive, causing extreme aggression. It may be the cause of this whole war, but more research is required. Admiral Westman. "Sir, telemetry is showing massive disruptions just outside the orbit of Jupiter. Readings are consistent with alien drive signatures. Alpha Centauri and TRAPPIST are reporting the same readings. We're under total attack." Westman walked to the TAC map that was already online. "Get me Smith, Oda, and Krieger." "Yes, sir." One by one, the three admirals appeared via hologram in front of Westman. Smith appeared calm and collected. Oda looked a little nervous but kept it contained. Krieger looked as if he had a fever, his entire face contorted with rage. The TAC map painted a dire picture. Roughly 33,000 alien vessels of different sizes and power had jumped into the Sol, Centauri, and TRAPPIST systems. The odds were stacked against humanity, Alien ships outnumbered their human counterparts by roughly 132 to 1. The odds balanced out to around 50 to 1 when factoring private weaponized spacecraft, but it was still overwhelming. Admiral Smith spoke first. "No aliens have entered the Sirius system. My forces are free to engage any system that needs me." Westman studied the map carefully. Sol had the advantage of countless defensive mines and batteries, as did Centauri. Trappist, however, was still reeling from the recent attack. "Trappist needs assistance. Jump there immediately." "Yes, sir!" Admiral Smith's hologram disconnected. It would be another 6 hours at least before he would enter the fray in Trappist. Until then, Krieger and his 250 military ships, as well as 1,500 civilian vessels, would have to hold the line. In Proxima Centauri, Admiral Oda was left with 250 ships, 3,000 civilian vessels, and over 1,500 hidden defensive batteries. He also had access to 30,000 of humanity's brand new RKMs. Krieger seemed to sense what Oda was thinking. "Only use those things as a last resort. I love to see those weeds die, but we are playing God with those things." "That's not the way it's going to be," ordered Westman. "Launch 1,500 of your RKMs at crust cracking level. Only target shipbuilding or government systems." Oda went ghostly white. "You're asking me to kill trillions of beings in mere seconds?" His entire world seemed to shatter around him. How would we be any better than them? Westman went quiet for a moment. His mind cried out the same reasoning as Oda, but self-preservation triumphed over morality. "I'm not asking. It's an order." Rant Yaul's Memoirs, Log 5. Other data I've come across is much more secretive and very well hidden. Some whispers of ancient knowledge and a massive cover-up are running rampant across government channels. If this proves true, we as a species are naturally much more aggressive than humans. I fear I am pushing my luck with my research. All across the galaxy, planets began to explode. A planet dedicated to bureaucracy and peace, with over 10 billion officials, each with families and friends, cracked like an eggshell. The crust was completely eviscerated, ejected into the lifeless void of space. Hundreds of other planets just like it were completely destroyed. Other planets, natural sanctuaries, ecumenopolises, industrial, shipbuilding, or any mixture of the bunch were also destroyed. Towering spires of the alien living cities were reduced to charcoal in milliseconds, completely gone in the next. On these worlds, there was no trace of life left because there was no surface left to house it. The sheer scale of the destruction was completely unspeakable. Tens of trillions were gone in an instant. If humanity got even more desperate, there's no telling what could be rationalized as a viable target, or a viable weapon. High Counselor Q-Tan. Outside the council chambers, millions were calling for the war to end. They, like everyone else, had just learned of the complete destruction of thousands of worlds. Trillions died instantly, and trillions more would die from the various shortages and chaos this would cause. Bliss was safe. The anti-FTL defenses had worked. In the war room, Q-Tan and her top military experts looked on in horror as the humans launched their volley of superweapons. Military operations inside human borders were going very well, but humanity was going out with a bang. On the war table, 3 fleet lords were bickering over their predicament. Q-Tan overheard their shushed conversation as it got much louder as the argument escalated. "We should shift some forces from Trappist to Sol. The defenses in the inner solar system are ripping our fleets to shreds." "Your fleet, my fleet in Centauri is having no such issues." "Why should I shift my fleet from Trappist? Do you not remember the last time we struck without a significant number?" All 3 went silent at the mention of the last assaults on human space. Q-Tan was satisfied that the arguing had ended. She marched over to the fleet lords and inspected the various offensives in the different systems. In Sol, the offensive was being repelled slightly. Losses were 25, 1 in military ships, but 71 in total. An incredible amount of resistance was being faced in the asteroid belt, as well as the moons of Jupiter. Q-Tan could only watch as hidden artillery unveiled its deadly hand time and time again, ripping the hulls of the newborn ships clean in two. Centauri was going better. Humans had a numerical disadvantage of 56-1. Casualties were very high in the central colonies of the system. The outer flanks, however, were crumbling. Total casualties evened out at around 40-1. Still very bad, but enough to win slightly. As long as the perimeter defenses of Centauri proper could be overwhelmed, the battle would be won. Trappist couldn't defend itself like the other systems. All defenses were destroyed in the last assault, and new defenses were sidelined in favor of rebuilding planetary infrastructure. The Trappist fleet was unable to defend everything. Instead, it opted to make many tactical jumps behind the fleet, and then jump away once again once they destroyed our propulsion. This method was effective, and began to be copied into the other systems to great effect against our ships. Quton gave the order, "Turn all ships on the rear flanks around. We can't let them harass us with impunity." The fleet lords grumbled and complained, but eventually complied. The new strategy was effective in limiting losses, but ineffective in destroying the rapidly moving human ships. Human ships jumped from place to place, seemingly at random, their fusion beams cutting through the living hulls of alien ships like butter. Swarms of missiles rained down on alien vessels constantly, their hulls completely gutted, their crew flung into space. The plantoid ships got cut down with incredible efficiency. However, the aliens got lucky on too many occasions. For every 50 losses humans inflicted, one would be taken by an alien weapon. A stray missile, beam, or bomb claimed the lives of many a human ship, and humans just couldn't afford these losses. Humanity needed to hold the line at all costs, as well as destroy the entire galaxy's shipbuilding capability, or will to fight. The fleets deep in human space must be destroyed, or the slaughter could never end. Rant Yaul's memoirs, final log. The rumors are true, we've been devolved. Quton's government is spreading some chemicals in the water supply to right our wrongs. I'm not sure if my conscience will survive. Quton's brain malfunctioned. It wasn't properly devolved. She is technically the most normal of all of us, for better or worse. I must now decide on what is truly right. President Jill. In the many months of war, no aliens of high value had been captured, until today. An alien claiming to be the lead science advisor of High Counselor Quton had defected to the human government on Earth. It claimed to have knowledge that could end the war. His only demand was that humanity stop indiscriminately striking mainly civilian worlds. To Jill and the other members of High Command, this was too good to be true. Considering the circumstances, however, it was worth a shot. The alien was locked in an interrogation chamber. It had been given a bed of soil to rest on, and requested water and fertilizer with high levels of nitrogen. These requests had been granted. The alien seemed unnervingly calm with its predicament. Jill took a deep breath and remembered the simpler days of being a UN negotiator. Sadly, there was no time to reflect on the victories of her past. Jill knew if she couldn't get this alien to cooperate, there might not be any future for humanity to enjoy. Jill entered the room through the automatic glass doors and began the negotiations. The alien's calm demeanor evaporated completely when Jill entered the room. It seemed to be completely terrified in the presence of a human. Its voice came stuttering through the translator. "You must promise me not to destroy any more worlds." "I can't do that, though I think you already know that. If you tell us what you know, we can take steps to minimize civilian casualties." The plant's leaves drooped slightly, but it seemed to be getting calmer. "You must destroy the capital quickly if you wish to end the war, but you are incapable of doing so without my help. Please continue. We have a field of distorted gravity around the capital. I know the locations of each and every pylon that powers this field. I can give you a list of targets, but you must agree to strike only these targets I give you. What about your shipbuilding facilities or military outposts?" The alien curled its leaves as if to enter a thinking position. That would not be necessary, as the populations of such planets have not yet been entirely re-evolved. They are not aggressive enough to be a threat. Re-evolved? Our species once was as aggressive as you humans. We fought each other long ago. You were but primitives confined to simple dwellings, and your kind worshipped us as gods. We attempted to destroy you then, but our leaders developed some morality. They realized the error of our warmongering ways and limited the abilities of our brains to accept violence. The aliens stopped communicating and appeared to take in water and nutrients. Quton has begun reverting our species into our aggressive versions. Her mind was mutated and damaged by the devolution process so long ago. She's been stuck in our version of the flight or fight response ever since you made first contact with her. You think if we cut off the head, the body will stop fighting? I'm certain of it.